girlies, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Tari here at I Will Define Myself. Welcome if you are new, welcome back if you are returning. Today we are going to be diving in to episode 2 in this shadow work series. Today we are going to be talking about the importance of creating safety for intention and inner work. So, what does it look like to create that safe space to begin loving our complete and full selves, and extending that grace to ourselves? Just to give a little recap, my apologies in advance. And if I'm looking down, I have some notes in front of me just to keep me on track and make sure I don't ramble. And also, I'm holding this little mic today. Okay, so in episode 1, specifically part 2 from last week, I talked about what shadow work is and what shadow work isn't. I gave you we highlighted some points, and we talked about things such as shadow work meaning awareness. Um, we're not here to quote unquote fix ourselves. A lot of the times, the shadow forms out of survival or some sort of need, not failure. Shadow work is a spiritual practice of awareness. We also talked about that healing is slow, it's gentle, and it is cyclical. So, shadow work ultimately never goes away. However, it is meant to bring awareness not only to our bodies, but to every aspect of ourself, right? Not just in the physical, but the spiritual, emotional, um, and mental as well. Shadow work is not dark, it's not dangerous, and it's not meant to be re traumatizing, as I stated before. And then, last but not least, healing changes our relationship to ourselves and with ourselves. So, with that being stated, let's go ahead and dive into episode 2. So, what does it mean to create safety for intention and inner work when you are dealing with shadow work? Okay. Safety means a number of things to people, but I want you to realize that safety again has to deal with all aspects of the body. So how does your body feel when you feel physically safe? How is your mental when you feel safe? How is your emotional when you feel safe? And how is your spiritual when you feel safe? It's important to remember that safety serves as the foundation for healing. Okay. So it's important to be in tune and to be aware and to create the space. If you realize you don't have it, to be safe, to be able to unpack, right? Every aspect of yourself. Coming from a place of love, though, and not fear. Safety is love. Safety is not coming from a place of fear. And a lot of times we can operate and move from a space and place of fear and not love necessarily. So when it comes to safety, I want you to think about what, and again, we're not here to relive any trauma or anything, but can you take yourself back to a place or a time when you felt really, really safe? And can you think about how your body felt? Maybe where your emotions during that time in your life? How were you feeling spiritually? And how was your mental during that time? Okay. Um, the second point is that healing cannot happen in an overwhelming state. Okay. So that's why it's also important to take your time when it comes to shadow work in general. It's important to operate and be in a space where you are calm, you are grounded, in a space where you're able to be present. Okay. I know that, and even to this day, self awareness, I have struggled, and sometimes it still happens, but I'm in a place now where I can navigate it a little bit better for sure. But where a lot of the time, sometimes I will get stuck in my head and not in my body. And as a result, my nervous system is overactive in a lot of ways. One, because I'm too busy thinking about what hasn't happened yet, right? And trying to predict every outcome, as opposed to being here in this moment where all I have is now and that's it. Now, with that being stated, that doesn't mean that you can't be intentional, right? But we have to be flexible in a sense, even with intention, because our plans aren't necessarily the divine's plans or timing. It could be the divine's plans for you. However, how you see it unfolding and how quickly you see it unfolding versus the divine is completely different. And so we have to be able to learn to rest in the stillness, to find that place, create that space for us, right? For some people, visualization helps. If you can visualize yourself in a place that brings you peace, maybe it's a childhood home, maybe it's a park, maybe it's at the beach. I'm not really a water person. I'm more of a cabin in the woods person. um, but not in a scary movie kind of way. But when you think about even what overwhelms you, just having that self awareness whenever you're doing shadow work to realize, hey, I'm not in a safe space right now. And so in this moment, I'm not going to work on this. But once I do XYZ, once my energy is a bit more calmer, maybe I go for a jog, maybe I go do yoga, Pilates. If you're that person, right, who loves to exercise and it helps you. I personally am more of a, oh, let me go get that donut over there. But we all have our thing, right? But whatever is going to help you ground your energy. I know for me, meditation is a practical thing that I do. And at one point, I kind of fell off of it, but I always feel a difference when I am not meditating, when I'm not doing breath work, okay? When I'm not bringing my thoughts to my physical body, the space around me. And really, I like to start my day with that. And that's something that I've recently gotten back in the practice and the habit of doing. So find that thing that works for you. And it could be different things for different scenarios, right? Which is where this self awareness is going to come into play. Okay, the third thing is that safety includes emotional, physical, and spiritual layers. I'm also going to throw mental in there as well. This definitely ties into when I say, can you think about a time where you felt really, really safe? How did you feel emotionally? I know that I always feel safe in my altar space. I always feel safe when I step into this corner of my place where I have created solace, where there is silence. I have a window, I can hear the rain falling. I've got my incense, I've got my crystals, I've got my Palo Santo and my sage and all of the things that kind of put me in a place where I just can be still. And a lot of the time, for some of us, stillness scares a lot of people because you don't like the thoughts that you are kind of sitting with or left with whenever you are sitting in stillness or in silence. And I'm going to tell you now, that's okay, friend. It's okay. I've been there. And as someone who has been there and is currently operating on the exact opposite end of the spectrum now, I love silence. I can wake up in the morning and start my day with silence. I can sit in silence for hours, honestly. It's okay if you're not there yet, right? Silence doesn't necessarily always equate to safety as well. That is just part of the ways that I know when I am feeling safe is in that stillness in my alter space, right? So maybe safety looks like you creating a space for yourself where physically you can be free, emotionally you can be free. You just walk through the door and things are just washing away, right? And there's also a very spiritual aspect of safety because safety is stemmed in healing, and healing is stemmed from within. Okay, it's a process. It takes time. You're going to be tested. Okay. Even with all of the shadow work that I've done, healing that I've done in areas of my life, that still does not stop the it still doesn't stop the healing process, right? There are times where you may be triggered or your boundaries may be crossed, and like what does that look like for you, right? And having that safety means including having that emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental awareness in wherever you are and however you're moving to be able to create that safety for intention and inner work. Fourth, the nervous system leads to the healing process. You guys, we have got to find a way to calm our nerves, okay? That anxiety, that fear, everything stems from fear. So I'm going to ask you, and this may be a very broad question. You don't have to answer it right now, right? But what are you afraid of? Full transparency for myself, because I have genuinely thought about it. I am afraid of being seen. Full transparency. I'm afraid of being seen. And I know where that stems from. I know where it comes from. And throughout my life, I've realized that there have been times where I have challenged myself, just like what I'm doing right now, because you get to a certain point in life where you realize that you have full control. And you do. You may not be able to control outside factors, okay, but you do get to control yourself. You get to control what environments you put yourself in. You get to control how you care for yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And you get to control how you nurture your nervous system. How do you calm yourself? What strategies could that look like for you? But it is in that place where you surrender, because healing is also tied to surrendering and letting go and trusting and being present for every aspect of the process, which isn't going to be like running through a field of roses or daisies. Okay. But that doesn't mean it's not beautiful. Challenge yourself to look at this and to experience shadow work from a different perspective. As in, yes, it may not always feel the greatest, but I'm growing to love every aspect of myself. I'm growing with compassion for myself. I am growing with having grace for myself. I'm growing when it comes to loving me and being me unapologetically, because being me is enough. Being you is enough. And although you've maybe been told the opposite or experienced the opposite or said, I like this part of you, but I don't quite like this part of you. Or maybe even for yourself, You may feel like, oh, well, I love this part of me, but not this part so much. And yeah, how do we get to that place? How do you get to that place where you look at yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself, and this is a practice, right? I'm going to challenge you guys. And it may not be every day that you remember. Maybe post it on a sticky note to hold yourself accountable. Sticky notes hold me accountable, not only in my personal life, but at work. Try getting up for the next 7 days and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying what you love about yourself and telling yourself just one thing. I love this part of myself because XYZ. But then I want you to tell yourself, this is a part of me that I am having trouble accepting and loving, but I am working towards doing it anyway. One thing that you absolutely love, and a second thing is something that you are struggling with, loving or accepting. Maybe ask yourself why. And then say, I love my full and complete self, no matter what. Try that exercise for the next 7 days, right? Or however long, okay? The next thing I'm going to state, and this is probably my favorite point, is that boundaries create safety. Can you hear me? For the people in the back, boundaries create safety. Say it with me. Boundaries create safety. Okay? Let boundaries be your new best friend, people. As someone who struggled with having boundaries, and a lot of the times it's not the people that the random stranger on the street that we have a problem having boundaries or creating boundaries with. It's with our close ones. It's with the people that we love and care about, right? Where it can be difficult to having boundaries is one thing, but enforcing those boundaries is another one. And I could tell you guys some stories, but we are here to tell the tale and we are better because of it. And you will also be, okay? It is okay to have boundaries. You need boundaries. You need boundaries for your safety, okay? You need boundaries for your safety physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So if you are that person that has absolutely no boundaries because you feel like you are okay with self-sacrificing, okay? Compromising at the expense of yourself all of the time, I'm going to tell you now, friend, get some boundaries, okay? You can start off small. But then after you get the boundaries, learn to enforce the boundaries. What does that look like? Okay. I'm going to be real transparent right now because it's not always easy. Okay. I am going to use my mother as an example, and I love my mother dearly. And this isn't a bad thing, but it can be very tricky navigating that parent to child relationship dynamic, especially when you're close with your parent and especially when you become an adult, right? Because you're always going to be their child, but you are also a grown adult. So what does that look like? My mom has a way, and hashtag growth to her because she's grown so much, like, and I love her for it. She's amazing. But my mom is always like a go-getter. She's a planner, right? And a lot of the times she will get into this zone, right? And she still is kind of like that. But like, we give people the space to be themselves while also acknowledging what our boundaries are when it comes to that. Okay? And the people who love you, it may be a little bit of an adjustment, but they are going to love you with your boundaries as well. Okay? You're not going to lose them. Okay, the people that truly love and care about you, you will not lose them. It might be an adjustment, but you will not lose them. And it will make you guys' relationship a lot stronger. And you will be at peace with your boundaries. You will feel safe. Okay. So I would call it voluntold, right? Like my mom would say, hey, and like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do da da da, right? And I realized that in my adult age, there was something about that really was a little bit triggering for me because it made me feel like I didn't have a choice. And something from my childhood, for whatever reason, just made me feel like I feel like having the choice and making it clear to people that no, I have a choice is something that's very important for me. And so it literally just took like a conversation. Like, had a conversation with my mom. It was fine. She didn't get defensive or anything like that. But every now and then she'll slip back into that and I'll ask her in a very respectful way, "Are you asking me or are you telling me?" And that serves as me enforcing that boundary, right? It's not like I'm saying, "Girl, I know you're not talking to me like that." Da, da. No, no, no. No. Okay. Because we also want to communicate in a healthy way as well. But when, you know, that moment may happen or that may come up, I simply just say, "Hey, mama, are you asking me or are you telling me?" And then it's like, "Oh, no, no, no," and then we're able to move forward. And it may take you a minute to really decide or understand, like, what does it look like enforcing the boundary, and it may look different with different people. Okay, so this isn't something that you have to figure out now. Okay, but it is something that's going to be important for you because having the boundaries but not enforcing them completely defeats the purpose of having the boundary, friend. So what does that look like? Okay, and how do you accept and acknowledge that and see boundaries as a key form of your healing, but most importantly your safety, right? And your safety is a foundation of your healing. So I want you to think about, what is one boundary maybe this week that you could set, right? And this also applies to people at work. Okay, this doesn't just have to apply to your personal life. It can also apply to your professional life. And it's important to have those boundaries, right? You may not have a long list, okay? And if you do have a long list, that's your prerogative. For me, a work boundary is when I'm not at work, I'm not trying to think about work. If I'm off, I am off. And I was not always that person. But people will have you running around like a chicken with your head cut off because they are trying to make their emergency your emergency. And the reality is that if you were not at work, if you were using PTO, that's your time. That's your time, friend. Okay? That's your time. Don't let anybody else tell you different. Last thing is, slowing down is wisdom, not avoidance. I repeat, slowing down is wisdom. It does not mean that you are avoiding anything. This isn't a process that is meant to be rushed. Okay? So, holding the space means also being patient while in the space and navigating the space. Slowing down means being intentional. Okay? Slowing down could also be tied directly to awareness of your self awareness, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, when you need to slow down, when you need to step away, when you need to pause, when you need to ground your energy, when you need to say no. I practiced this thing one time for maybe about a week where I literally before, because I was in the habit of just telling people yes and kind of overextending myself because Tari can be somewhat of a people pleaser, grown a lot in that area, but can still be somewhat of a people pleaser. And for like a week, instead of saying yes to everything, I said, I'll get back to you. I'll let you know. Now, granted, is that my default now? We are who we are at the core. So, no. But I can say that I feel less stress to say yes, or to overextend myself. If, i.e., I really don't want to do something, or to be uncomfortable at the expense of someone else's comfort. What makes your comfort any less important? Now, I will say that to say everything in life is about balance and discernment, okay? And sometimes for the people we love, sometimes in certain situations, it is a lot bigger than you. It's a lot bigger than yourself. I put myself on camera because I feel like this is a personal experience. It's been a huge part of my personal journey. And this is bigger than me. Even if I reach one people, 10 people, 1,000, 10,000 people, I'm claiming it. But me being uncomfortable in this space, the why and the purpose behind it is much bigger than just me. And so we do have to have discernment when it comes to even how we navigate certain spaces because sometimes it is bigger than yourself. Sometimes it's not just about you, friend. Sometimes it isn't. But we'll get to that later, right? Because as you are strengthening your spiritual connection, you are strengthening your intuition and trusting yourself to navigate these spaces with these boundaries, with creating the safety for yourself. Okay? That concludes episode 2 of Creating Safety for Inner Work and Intention. Of course, I will have some questions, some reflective questions for you all in the description box below. Okay? Sit with them, think about them throughout the week. We'll do a quick recap next Sunday. And again, share in the community tab. Okay? If you have any questions, anything that you want to share, let me know. Okay. I am super, super excited to move into episode 3, where we are going to be talking about emotional triggers. Okay. Emotional triggers as messengers. All right. So prepare yourself, but don't worry. Okay. We will start off. We are going to be gentle as much as possible. Okay, there are no right or wrong ways to do this. This is just food for thought. And we are setting a solid foundation for any and everyone out there who is trying to get their shadow work on. Again, I love each and every single one of you, and I appreciate every single one of you. I'm going to love you and leave you. Peace, love, and light. Until next time. Bye.